Hello dear spectators, and welcome to the 6th episode of SanitySlayer 42's Machinima Making Guide for Halo Custom Edition. In this episode, I'm going to point out several tips to enhance your machinima videos, and I will show you 2 do not do skits to prevent you from humiliating yourself. Okay, first I'm going to cover the voicing. Voice acting is a very important aspect of machinima, since it's the best and sometimes the only way to express your character's personalities. The best advice I can offer to you though is practice. So I'm not gonna give you tips on how to voice act, but I'm gonna tell you what not to do. This kind of stuff, keeping the voicing low and the music extremely high, is a big mistake. Balancing the various sounds takes time to get good at, but essentially what you want to do is keep the voicing understandable to some limit. And recording your voicing in a good environment is obviously also important. Not recording stuff outside, or with your mom screaming, "Come eat dinner!" So yeah, my point is just try to watch out for this sort of stuff. Now another thing is that in your machinima, you're likely to have several characters. In Halo, since the characters tend to look quite similar most of the time, you'll want to have distinguishable voices. I would recommend that you get different voice actors for different characters. But if you're doing your machinima alone, however, you can find people on machinima.com willing to help. Just go on the forums and post something, it's fairly easy. Alternatively, you can use different levels in your voice, like a lower or a high-pitched voice, or even adding an accent. Also, one thing you absolutely must do if you're using identical pipettes for all your characters is color coding. And what I mean by that is assign a specific color for each major character. You can give minor, unimportant characters the same colors, but major characters must have their own distinct color. Just look at red versus blue, for example. If you don't do these things, your machinima will look very confusing. Kinda like this.
Alright maggots, I am Silent Jack, and I will be your leader for the rest of your days. Well, I, Private James, thinks that sucks. And I, Private George, strongly agree with him. Quiet down, you 2 retards. Be more like these other 2 identical soldiers here, which are polite and anonymous. So we have names. I'm John and he's Jacob. I hate you. Who, me?
No, James. Who's James?
Shut up, Jacob.
I didn't say anything.
Shut up! Okay, George.
Yes, sir.
I said George, not James.
Wait, but I am James.
Yes, that's what I said. George, not James.
Yes, that's me.
Shut up, Jacob.
I didn't say anything.
I am not referring to you, John.
Yes, sir.
Shut up, Bob. But I'm John. I don't want to speak to John. I want to speak to George.
Yes, for the 3rd time. That's me.
Oh my God, Jacob, not you.
I didn't say anything.
I know, I wasn't talking to you.
Now moving on to the video clips. Try avoid having one character talking for hours on the same camera angle. Keeping the same camera angle for too long is bad, lazy, and boring. The audience will just tell themselves, "Woo, you're boring! Do something interesting, don't just stand there." Whereas, they'll get the sensation that something new is happening every time you change the camera angle, thus keeping it interesting, even if it isn't. But do not do it too often. And by changing the angle, I don't mean flying around like a drunk pigeon. You'll just look pathetic. Why are you filming my back? Another thing you should watch out for is if your episodes are relatively short, try avoid having insanely long intros and credits. It is so irritating. Oh, and another thing, which I used to do and I'm trying to avoid now, is if you're making these movies alone, which is totally fine by me, try avoid putting your name millions of times in the credits and intro. Here's why. For fuck's sake, we get it! You're cool! Now I will demonstrate certain do not do stuff concerning your feet. What I'm doing right now is a mistake. Standing on a slope. You will see my feet aren't well synchronized with the floor. Very ugly. Now a little bit is okay, but there are certain limits, you know. The second thing you gotta watch out for is this. Walking forward a little bit. If you're gonna run, then run a long distance. And if you still wanna walk a little bit, then buy a joystick so that you can actually walk. The third thing you gotta watch out for is this. Pivoting. In some cases you'll wanna do that, but generally it's preferable to avoid it. I will now demonstrate your field of view. That means at what point you start pivoting. You approximately have a 45-degree limit in both directions before you pivot. This is just an estimation, so if you make a 360 turn, you'll realize you won't be quite where you started before. You can reset the angle back to 0 by either pressing forward or back. And so in first person view, this field is about this much. Not bad, actually. Well fellas, that's it for this episode. In the next episode, I'll show you how to get more players and thus more characters into your machinima. See you next time.